under cryogenic conditions. Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, Institute of Volcanology of the Far East Branch of the Russian Academy of the Sciences, 1992. In other words, the source of heat flux deep in the Earth should be recognized as both radiogenic and deuteronogenic as equal to a real presence. For both phenomena, it should be taken into account whether radioactive decay alone is sufficient to account for Earth's heat energy, and works equally for the thermo-radiogenic crisis of out-to-date geophysics paradigms. It is obvious that the model of non-local statistical vortex of deuterogenic heat flux from the Earth's interior works well, either through the tectonosphere or everywhere, because hydrogen degassing of the Earth covers all volumes and penetrates through all surfaces and layers of our planet, and proton condensate, H+, has the highest heat capacity in the universe. It is obvious that the intensity of heat transmission by the use of hydrogen degassing depends on the physico-chemical and rheological properties of the substances filling every subpart of the geosphere. That means liquid core and mantle, asthenosphere, and crust. It is obvious that the permeability of geospheres is the greatest for escaping upwards protons in the tectonogene, which is the most active part of the tectonosphere. Protons' permeability is minimal in the least tectonically active parts of the geosphere, which are platforms with Earth crust thickness of hundreds of kilometers. It is obvious that the proton's permeability of loosening fault masses, or degassing conduits, in the Earth's crust is much higher than the proton's permeability of sealing masses in rocks containing the fault, or degassing conduit. This implies that the enhancement of protons' migration from the Earth's core into space, when tectonic events are being prepared, must be accompanied with the highest boosting of non-local statistical vortex deuterogenic heat flux through the fault or degassing conduit, precisely where the main focus of the tectonic event is being formed. The so-called magnetic crisis in geophysics plays a significant role in the depth of understanding of how does Earth's interior work, too. Investigations reveal that the magnetic crisis appears to be a result of deep-sea drilling into the sediments at the seabed bottom over the last half a century. Chronology of reversals of geomagnetic field was revealed from deep-sea drilling. It appears to be that most tectonic activity, pouring out fumes of lava from giant cracks, etc., coincides with the most powerful geomagnetic variation, in other words, geomagnetic reversals. Lesser geomagnetic variations, excursuses and jerks, are also accompanied by intensifications of tectonic activity. The geomagnetic reversals, i.e. jumping, or in other words, interchanging of position of the Earth's magnetic north and magnetic south poles, are estimated to last about 1,000 years during tectonic bursts. Excursuses, or excursions, drifting of geomagnetic pole from one hemisphere to another and back, have lasted about a century or so, which is less than the duration of geomagnetic reversal. Jerks have an average duration of a decade, which is substantially less than the length of excursuses. Discovered on a planetary scale of paleomagnetic reversals and archaeomagnetic excursions, which correlate with geomagnetic and tectonic bursts, raises the question as to what are adequate models to either correlate such facts or provide a small time frame of geomagnetic and tectonic shocks on a global, for geomagnetic reversals and excursions, and sub-global scale for geomagnetic jerks. A speculative hypothesis to generate geomagnetic moments has been operated using the annular charge flow in the liquid Earth core, which has giant mass, a diameter about several thousand kilometers, and has association to the geomagnetic equator, the plane of which is perpendicular to the vector of geomagnetic moment. The vector of geomagnetic moment is currently tilted about the Earth's geographical rotational axis about 0.05 of pi. A hypothesis for the massive vortex of charges in the liquid Earth core was based on the unobvious postulate that when the planet was being created about 5 billion years ago, somehow for unclear reasons, an annular stream of charges began to swirl and has not yet stopped. The model of gigantic stream carrying charges in the liquid core around the solid core since the time of Earth's creation does not fit the frequent reversals of geomagnetic vector. The vector reverses from the Arctic to the Antarctic in almost one geological flash of the cosmogonical timeline. Moreover, a considerable body of reliable operative term precursors of tectonic events such as geoelectrical, geomagnetic, and electromagnetic was obtained long ago. They took closer distances and shorter time scales to make confirmable correlations between charge phenomena and tectonic activity at global and cosmogonic levels. It was obvious, however, that if one uses the hypothesis of electromagnetism on the basis of the classical model of geomagnetism, then it is not possible to define a model of the focus of a tectonic event to predict earthquakes over the short term and operative term. It is timely to recall that leapfrogging, or stepwise change of seismogenesis, is connected with the epoch of the disappearance of a planetary geomagnetic moment into which the planet is currently creeping. Geomagnetologists assume that it will happen in the third Julian millennium. It is well known that reversal epochs, that is, the disappearance and further changing of signs of planetary geomagnetic moment in geological history of the planet, were accompanied with multiple crackings of the surface of the Earth's crust and flowing lava being poured out at significant distances from the giant cracks. For example, there were numerous, frequently alternated reversals of planetary geomagnetic moments when flowing lava covered more than 60% of the planetary surface at the turn of the Mesozoic-Cainozoic epoch. To overcome the geomagnetic crisis, models of electrical networks were formulated. Models of electrical networks are used to obtain approximate estimations of the parameters of non-stationary processes, occurring both in massive electrical circuits and charge exchange through and across geospheres. These geospheres participate in the process of formation of foci and start-up of earthquakes. Models of electrical networks are also used to obtain an estimation of the parameters of forthcoming phenomena and to indicate the imminence of tectonic events. When using electrical network models to overcome the magnetic crisis problem of traditional geophysics, the following results were found. 1. Global geomagnetic moment, M, is a superposition of some set of local, regional, and subglobal moments, Mi. M equals epsilon Mi. 2. Every local, regional, and subglobal moment, Mi, is a general result of the ring's electric current, II, operation, flowing in the electrical circuit of appropriate levels. 3. Value and direction of M is completely defined by values and directions of II, flowing in the electrical circuits of appropriate levels. 4. Variations of M and Mi, reversals, excursions, and jerks, are completely defined by variations and directions of II, flowing in the electrical circuits of appropriate levels. 5. Variations of M and Mi are tectonic indicators of appropriate space-temporal levels. 6. Geomagnetic storms and substorms are completely defined by variations of values and directions of II, flowing in the electrical circuits of appropriate levels. 7. Geomagnetic storms and substorms are factors of tectonic prognostic importance. The discussion relating to impulse charge exchanges between units of the massive closed electrical circuit Sun, IMFL, heliopause, IMFL, Earth, IMFL to Sun was implemented in lecture number 01, where IMFL is lines of the interplanetary magnetic field. Below we consider impulse charge exchanges across the ionosphere-troposphere unit. Electrical network models of impulse charge exchanges across geospheres have explained the phenomena of mysterious discharges occurring at high altitude, above cloud, which were discovered in recent years. Sensational papers emerged in science magazines regarding the measured parameters of ultra-short discharges in stratosphere and mesosphere, altitude from 17 to 105 kilometers, and its duration from 1,000th, 10 to the minus 3, to 1 millionth, 10 to the minus 6 of a second. Blood red glows were called goblins or sprites to accentuate the mysterious physical nature of the phenomena. Red glows have a spatial structure ranging from small single or multiple vertical elongated spots to spots with faint extrusions above and below to bright groupings which extend to about 105 kilometers. Elves are red lights of alternated flashes lasting up to 1 millionth, 10 to the minus 6 of a second, and occur at altitudes from 85 to 105 kilometers. They appear to be a dim, flattened glow of reddish ring, expanding radially outward along the lower edge of the ionosphere. Names like elves and goblins are used to denote the mysterious nature of the phenomena and accentuate the other universe nature of phenomena relatively to our common universe physics. A ring of reddish elves expands radially outward up to about 230 kilometers across in about 220 microseconds, with an apparent speed faster than light. The impulse characteristic of high-altitude elves indicates their main role as collective processes, and Vlasov's non-local statistical theory must be used for their simulation. Blue glows, so-called gnomes, project as jets, typically in narrow cones, or similar to bells, tubes, and bell mouths, outward to the middle ionosphere. Glowing jellyfish are bundles of luminous tendrils that spread upward to the middle ionosphere. Simple ones are called carrot sprites and have a bright red color. Here it should be noted that the brightest line of radiation of hydrogen atoms, H-alpha, H-alpha, is a blood-red spectral line with a wavelength of 656.28 nanometers. The less bright line of radiation of hydrogen atoms is H-beta, which has a cyan or blue-green spectral line with a wavelength of 486 nanometers. The conception of self-organization of a bundle of charge structures or electrical circuits that covers as far as the solar cavity and generates extra impulses of EMF can explain high-altitude pulse glows in a natural manner due to the effect of impulse extra currents appearing to be across separately divided units of geospheres, which are spaced subvertically. In such cases, ring elves of red light are induced by non-local statistical vortex interactions between hydrogen atoms excited by a proton current flowing through the vertical filamentary. For nearly 100 years, military and civilian pilots have reported seeing ephemeral flashes above storms, though these were mostly discounted by the atmosphere science community. The first scientific documentation of brilliant mysterious glows or flashes occurring between troposphere ionosphere was captured on videotape on the night of July the 6th in 1989 by Dr. J. Winkler. Video observations from the Space Shuttle, acquired from 1989 through 1991, provided 17 additional examples to confirm the existence of the sprites phenomenon. Quantitative measurements of extremely brief phenomena in the stratosphere and mesosphere shifted those who keep scientific paradigms into believing that the nature of flashes had nothing to do with rationality. They were so elusive that scientists gave them mystical, irrational names. Over several years, a menagerie of different kinds of flashes has been discovered. For example, elves are blood-red glows which occur at altitudes from 85 to 105 kilometers and consist of alternated flashes lasting up to 1/1,000th, 10 to the minus 6th, of a second. They are rings expanding radially outward and can attain diameters up to 230 kilometers across a timescale of 220 microseconds. The different kinds of flashes are called with fanciful names like sprites, trolls, gnomes, pixies, and fairies. Quantitative measurements detailing jellyfish tendrils, giant trees, carrots, cones, and columns flashing upwards to the ionosphere were obtained. It is clear that the growth direction, upward towards the ionosphere, of such enigmatic phenomena is akin to the formation of upward leaders that develop at high altitudes, troposphere. Typically, faint filaments or streamers ascend from the ground before one of the upward streamers comes into contact with one of the downward streamers. Such faint upward filaments point to a violent, bright glowing bunch once a conducting path is achieved. When downward streamers begin to move toward the ground, they shoot out one or more downward leaders. Downward leaders move down toward the ground in discrete steps of several dozen meters at a time. Each leader, splitting after every stop, shoots out one or more leaders. They are called stepped leaders, resulting in jerky movements. As soon as a stepped downward leader is close to the ground, at a height of around 103 meters, then it is the final stop before making contact with an upward leader. When an upward leader meets an awaiting downward leader, then a conductive path is created, that is, lightning, and is characterized with a bright flash. As is known, if there are no high trees, buildings, or rods, then an upward leader is launched from the Earth's surface, the place which attracts the lightning. Investigations of the selectivity of places attracting lightning shows connections with tectonic disturbances and geological structures. This can be faults, displacements, thrusts, and so on, also ore bodies, intrusions, dikes, etc. Similar to upward lightning leaders appearing between cloud ground, above the tectonic disturbances, mysterious flashes occur between troposphere, ionosphere, above disturbances of the troposphere. These can be cyclones, atmospheric fronts, etc. The family of transient luminous events is shown on the illustration. There are also non-luminous phenomena such as gamma-ray bursts and dark lightning, which are also observed at high altitude. Since the 1990s, many investigative campaigns operating with ground vehicles, aircraft, and space shuttle observations have been carried out. However, the nature of these mysterious phenomena is still unclear, and investigators are limited within the model of a closed system between two Earth layers, troposphere and ionosphere. Insufficient knowledge and failure to explain high-altitude enigma makes the move to an open system conception of paramount importance for our investigation. In such cases, an open system is placed between two geospheres, troposphere and ionosphere, in other words, between two plates of global spherical capacitors. The pulse potential difference, which is external to the global spherical capacitor, occurs across plates, troposphere and ionosphere. As is known, direct measurements of potential difference occurring across the lithosphere's surface and clouds have produced values incomparable with ones necessary to break through space across cloud ground even in the presence of the high atmospheric humidity of the troposphere. For that very reason, the rigorous theory of lightning discharge has not yet gained the support of the classical electrostatics and electrodynamics. However, Vlasov's methods of non-local statistical mechanics can solve this task if pulse hydrogen degassing of the Earth in the form of protons and hydroxide ions is taken into account. In this case, potential difference applying to cloud-ground or cloud-to-cloud does not enter into equations like force factor acts in the framework of laws by Coulomb, Ampere, etc. In the framework of Vlasov's non-local statistical mechanics, such small potential differences provides the organizing factor in which pulse self-organizes protons and hydroxide ions to form Vlasov's open structures. Likewise, Vlasov's open structures provide charge exchange across cloud-ground space or cloud-to-cloud space. While charge exchange occurs across cloud-ground, as soon as the stepped downward leader makes contact with an upward leader, it merges with the jump to concentrate protons and hydroxide ions within those comparatively small volumes, where the possibility is very high to be self-organized as Vlasov's closed structure. The rigorous theory of the self-organization of such structures, which forms hot sheath bubbles filled with cold air and drifting through cold air, is formulated in Vlasov's book in Russian. See Chapter 8, Interaction between ions in cold plasma through a mediate system, neutral gas, on page 172, and also Chapter 9, Theory of the Existence and Stability of Plasmoids Maintained by Its Own Forces, on page 194. Or here in English, Interaction between ions through an intermediate system, neutral gas, and the problem of the existence of a cluster of particles maintained by its own forces by Vlasov and Yakovlev in 1978. Theoretical and mathematical physics. In Vlasov's non-local statistical mechanics, a small potential difference applying across troposphere-ionosphere space also provides the organizing factor by which pulse self-organizes protons and hydroxide ions form Vlasov's open structures. Likewise, Vlasov's open structures provide charge exchange across troposphere-ionosphere spacing. Thus, it is assumed that part of the global spherical capacitor, the bottom plate of which is the tropospheric disturbance, can be represented as a flat capacitor shape. This case is analogous with a flat semiconductor. Non-Coulomb structures of like charges comprise its bulk when potential difference is applied onto transparent plates electrodes. For example, non-Coulomb structures are self-organized in a densely graded mix of two chemical elements, which have many tunnel current voltage characteristics, VAC. Among the most extensive and in-depth examples, as noted by Dr. Eckehard Scholl in his review, are investigations of PIN diodes, which are a dense graded mix of gallium arsenide and studied at liquid helium temperature. Figure 4.16 in Scholl's review shows that while external current flows through a gallium arsenide PIN diode sample at T equals 4.2 Kelvin, the surface of the sample exhibits bright radial light contrast, current density profiles. Infrared photographs of light emitted from the current filament at lambda equals 880 nanometers were recorded through the transparent electrodes, film electrodes. Solitary filaments, or satellites, occur outside the central light spot and contrast light ring and appear at a sufficient distance from each other. Visible analysis shows that when currents are increased through the gallium arsenide slab from 6 milliamps, then 10 milliamps, and eventually 15 milliamps, in contrast to infrared radiation, its width and brightness become wider and brighter. It can be clearly seen that as the current intensity through the transparent electrodes is increased, squares of central light spot, central light ring, and satellite light spots are also thickened and become wider and brighter. The presence of contrast light spot emitted from the surface of the gallium arsenide pin diode, taking place approximately in the geometrical center of the sample, exhibits the self-organization of central filament in the bulk. Concentration of charges and velocities in the central filament differed sharply from those in solid bulk surrounding filament. The same sharp difference is found inside the bulk of the gallium arsenide pin diode below the contrast light ring, in other words, in the cylindrical sheath which is coaxial with the central filament. The same applies to the contrast satellite infrared light spots, which are exits of satellite current filaments on the surface of the gallium arsenide sample. The central axial filament is called the central cable of Schells coaxial. The cylindrical structure is called the sheath of Schells coaxial, which envelops the central cable of Schells coaxial. Schells' review did not ask why does Coulomb's law fail to comply with solid semiconductors and what is the physical nature of such non-observance. However, Coulomb's law might force the uniform glow or light emitted from the entire surface of the gallium arsenide pin diode as charges might repel. Even so, Schells' review did not question the physical interpretation of multiple tunnel paths of current voltage characteristic. For example, silicon pin diode with gold doping compensation, and that's figure 4.17 in Schells' review, exhibits current voltage characteristic at room temperature and has more than 10 tunnel paths, confirming the negative Ohm's law. It means that with an increase of potential differences, voltage bias, through or across electrodes, current intensity decreases through pin diode. There are numerous, almost parallel paths of current voltage characteristics with positive Ohm's laws. It is obvious that one value of potential difference can exhibit several values of current intensity, and one value of current intensity can exhibit several values of potential difference. In other words, current voltage characteristics of silicon pin diode with gold doping compensation exhibit chaotic disorder, uncertainty, when Ohm's law is implemented. Non-Coulomb self-organization of charges can be explained by Vlasov's non-local statistical interaction. Gibbs-Vlasov canonical distribution and Gibbs-Vlasov non-local statistical distribution function. Using Vlasov-Maxwell equations, one can fairly easily obtain a formula of charge-carrier concentration distribution in the cross-section of the charge L's. See the illustration. For this purpose, the Gibbs-Vlasov canonical distribution should be taken into account. Here, dW, in brackets RPL, elementary probability to find the charge which the state is depending on for generalized coordinate R, generalized momentum P, and generalized moment of momentum L. It is assumed that R, P, and L are mutually independent. From Gibbs-Vlasov canonical distribution, it follows that Gibbs-Vlasov non-local statistical distribution function is defined by both classical distribution functions and Vlasov's non-local statistical distribution function. Here, this formula is Gibbs-Vlasov non-local statistical distribution function. This is Boltzmann distribution function, UP potential energy of the particle, statistical temperature of a system of charges as components of the distribution function. This is the Maxwell distribution function, UK kinetic energy of a particle. And this is Vlasov's non-local statistical distribution function. Application of Vlasov's non-local statistical distribution function is only possible within the Descartes-Mach-Vlasov postulate, stated for the present instance in the next form. All charges in the boundary of the flat capacitor which is selected above the disturbance of troposphere, represent an ensemble as a whole, that is, the non-local statistical distribution function. With the boundaries of non-local statistical distribution function, charges do not interact through collision, but cooperate in a non-local statistical way,